What's up everyone, Sean Count Blaggerth here today with a different type of video. This is kind of a question slash more personal video. I want to share some stories I have involving music. And the question I have for you guys is, what are some of the best music listening stories you have? I have some about the first time I listened to albums and a couple of great memories associated with listening to an album. This isn't like what means the most to you. Some of these albums definitely do, but I have some pretty cool stories about the first time I heard them or whatever. And side note, my glass is probably better than yours. It's hard to see, but it's Better Call Saul. Anyways, let's begin. First CD I'm going to talk about is one of my all-time favorite black metal albums. This was my all-time favorite for a while, and it was dethroned by another, but this is still up there for me as one of the absolute fucking greatest. It's a pure genius album. Satyricon Dark Medieval Times. And this is actually the first press. First time I ever listened to this masterpiece, I want to say I was in 10th grade, so I might have been like 16 at the oldest. And I remember seeing the artwork and I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait till winter to listen to this. And this was back, before I started like really buying CDs consistently. And I had my friend download their whole discography on his computer so I could then put it on my Zune because I didn't have a computer that could have the Zune program on it because I was running dial-up and all that stuff back in the day. And I had the whole discography and I loved The Shadow Throne. I thought that was an absolute genius album, and I still love Volcano and Now Diabolical, I think are fucking awesome albums, but The Shadow Throne always like stood out to me. And the Dark Medieval Times, first time I listened to it, I couldn't wait much longer, and just when I was about to cave in and listen to the download, someone on the Metal Archives put this up, and I got it for an absolute steal. And I remember it was late October. My dad was about to go to hunting camp because he's a hunter. In the fall, he hunts deer for the meat, and I was gonna be alone, just watching my mom for the weekend, and it was a rainy, cold day, kind of foggy, and this came in the mail, and I was super stoked. I ran up the driveway because I got the mail after school, ran in the house and popped this in, and I just opened the blinds of my window and looked out as the rains fell and the cold winds blew, and this was absolutely fucking perfect. Just the atmosphere of the album matched the atmosphere outside, and in my opinion it was absolutely just fucking glorious, and probably why it's one of my favorite black metal albums. Same goes for this album. This is Watane's Lawless Darkness. This is in my top 5 favorite albums ever. And the first time I listened to this, I went to FYE earlier in the day with the guitarist in my band, Justin, and me and him were hanging out and went to FYE, and I picked this up, and I didn't listen to it yet. I was waiting for it to be night for my first listen. And this is actually my first time listening to Watane. I bought this as a blind buy. And he gave me a call around, I want to say 10:30 or 11, saying they wanted to go for a drive. And we hit up some back roads, and I popped this in. And we just cruised down back roads, and it was kind of a light rain out, pretty foggy, and it was just absolutely amazing. And when we got to the final track on the main album, besides the bonus track, Waters of Ain came on as we pulled down this super um, terrible road. surrounded by swamps, and the fog rolled in, and we just put it in park. And I remember hearing Waters of Ain while watching the fog roll in across the swamp, and then lightning started to strike, and it was unbelievably perfect, and it struck a chord with me. I remember actually as well, it was kind of thundering and lightning earlier in the night, and when the song Four Thrones came on, right at the part when it went, "Hey, Belial!" It just went boom. The lightning went perfect with the Belial, the flash. It was fucking incredible, and it always stuck out to me. Next, this is also the first time it involves Justin again. Agalloch, The Mantle, my second favorite album of all time. Um, my God, when I bought this album completely blind, I was always told if you like Opeth and you like black metal, check these guys out. I was always told that, and nowadays I think the comparison's kind of shitty. But one of my friends I used to talk with all the time, Tyler, if you see this dude, what's up? Right before I left, I was like, I got like $11 for a CD. I need a suggestion. He's like, if you see Agalloch, pick it up. I'm like, they won't fucking have that in FYE. So we drove up, and lo and behold, they had it. My friend bought Cling to the Trees of a Forest Fire, and we listened to that and got some food. And then as we're leaving the city, he was like, pop in that CD. And I popped it in. And the drive on the way back, it started to snow lightly when I popped it in. And as we continued to drive back to my house, the snow picked up more and more and more. And to the point, by the time he pulled into my house, into my driveway, it was an absolute blizzard. And right when I went to eject the CD ended. It was the final track. It was identical in length from where we were to my house in the snow. And because of that, it really solidified my love for that album. Next, this is the first time I listened to this album here, Fortress with Les Hivas de Nocte Epoque, I think is how you say it. Steven, if you see this video, I'm sorry I butchered the pronunciation. I know you've tried to correct me on it before. I think that was the best attempt I made. Anyways, back to the days when I would, like, broke and I downloaded, I was on a blog spot, and I was just trying out some new black metal, and I went to this one blog spot. I think it was called blackmetalwar.blogspot, and I saw the artwork for the CD version, which I have right here, and I loved it. And the artwork for the Traditionalism EP, which I could never find for years, and now I finally have it, but it's up there and I'm not grabbing it. Anyways, I heard the like intro to this album on my laptop. I was like, I'm gonna save this, and it was late winter, early spring, and they were tapping all the maple trees up around by my camp. And where my camp is located is very north in New York, and it's got a very strong feel to it. Of there's a lot of logging, a lot of maple harvesting. Forestry is pretty much the biggest industry in that area, and it's just located in the middle of nowhere with all these like little sugar shacks and cabins and all that. And it pretty much looks like that on this cover. And my family decided to take a trip, so I put my earbuds in and I listened to it once we got up there. And the atmosphere of this was identical to what it was like in up around by my camp, and it was just absolutely fucking perfect. I remember hearing the final track, Deluge Blanc. I know that's completely butchering the pronunciation. When that played, I was just like, and the first actual song, Ancient Voice, I don't know how to fucking say it. With those two songs in particular, like hit me super hard and struck a chord with me. and it just made me feel a really strong connection to the music that I can never really duplicate. And that's really one of my favorite places to listen to that album is up in my camp. And if I can in the winter, I will. It's absolutely amazing, but it's really hard to get to my camp in the winter because it's super far in the woods and on a seasonal road. So, whatever. Anyways, moving on. Amorphous, Silent Waters. This was the soundtrack to my summer of 2007. Um, my God, I remember hearing the song Silent Waters on a sampler that Nuclear Blast, Century Media threw in with some Leaves Eyes CDs I ordered from CM Distro, and I heard Silent Waters. At first, I was like, this sounds nothing like Tales from a Thousand Lakes. This is awful. And I started playing it more, and it started to click with me. And I'll always remember that summer of before I had a four-wheeler, I had an old school three-wheeler, Kawasaki 200, and I used to ride that around, and the song Silent Waters was stuck in my head, and I ended up getting this and CD version, which I have right here, the Digipack, and I remember one night, I was like, you know what, I want it to match the album cover, Moon Out. So I opened up my window. This was early summer. And I just sat in front of my window looking out into the woods behind my house. And it actually matched so well. And once again, it just struck a chord with me. And I still absolutely adore this album. It's one of my favorites from Amorphous. Next, Fever Ray, self-titled. Another story that involves Justin. One night we were at band practice, and he had to go to someone's house and pick him up. And he went in to pick him up, and he had a Zune as well in the car, and I was like, I'll just wait in the car. So I sat out there, and it was in the middle of the woods. And I was like, oh, Fever Ray, I remembered the Needle Drop reviewing this. So I put it on, and If I Had a Heart came on. Pitch blackout, no moon. All you could see is some stars and just pine trees. And I remember listening to that and just being absolutely floored. It was just so dark, it almost scared me to an extent, and that's part of the reason why I love this album. I've talked about it before with the song Triangle Walks. When I'm stressed out, it always hits the spot, and I remember last year really wanting to go visit my girlfriend because I missed her and I was super stressed out. And at her house, I always feel very at ease with everything and not stressed out in the slightest. And the chorus, "Can I come over? I need to rest." I was sitting on my front porch listening to this. Sitting on the front porch listening to it with my dog and having a cup of coffee. And I remember hearing that line, and I just kind of laid back and looked up at the clouds for a while and listened to it. And then when the song Coconut came on, with a lay back with a big cigar, this is where we are. I just always felt at peace. And on the train ride back from New York City, so I live in upstate New York, so the train goes along the Hudson River. And whenever Coconut comes on, and I have an early morning train ride on the way back, usually I take like the 7 o'clock train, it just always hits me, and it's just always an amazing listening experience. So, a little bit about Fever Ray. First time listening to Monotheist, my all-time favorite album by fucking Celtic Frost. This is my favorite album of all time. And I remember having the CD version. I picked it up at FYE and snuck it home so my religious parents wouldn't see it. And I bought it when it came out in 2006. Hard to believe that's 10 years ago. I I got the CD, and I waited for him to leave, and I was home alone, and I popped it in. And the only thing I knew from the album was the chorus to ground of "Oh God, why have you forsaken me?" Because that was in the commercial that was on Headbangers Ball, and I remember hearing that just being like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And when I got into sinking my teeth into this album, I was absolutely amazed by the diversity of it. And being home alone and having this like religious background, and there's a huge moth flying around that's annoying. Anyways, the album terrified me, and when I got to Totengot, Synagogue of Satanate in winter, I remember it starting to storm outside, and it freaked me out, and I actually shelved the album and didn't touch it for like, I want to say a solid like 3-4 months because of that experience. Got two more to share. Hex Vessel with No Holier Temple. Last year, I was once again really stressed out. It had a lot to do with my mother being in the hospital, and one day I decided to take our four-wheeler out, and I went, I want to say maybe 40 miles away, and I found this trail that went really far in the woods. I didn't really know where it went, and I just kept going and going, and I came to this beautiful, beautiful clearing in the woods, and it just had this amazing view of the valley, and you could see the Adirondack Mountains far in the distance. And I grabbed my earbuds out of the cargo box I have on it, and my phone. I always have this album on there. This is psychedelic folk rock, if you don't know. Um, Unbelievably beautiful album, and being in the woods on a gorgeous summer day listening to this is like a spiritual experience. I remember Sacred Marriage and Unseen Sun actually moving me to tears from the beauty of what I was seeing, along with the music to complement it. And it was an absolutely unreal experience, especially since I could hear birds chirping in the background. This album will always mean the world to me, but this really helped solidify my love for folk music and nature. And now for the last one, and this is probably the craziest story I have involving music. Um, Burzum with Havis Laset Tar Os. I know I destroyed the pronunciation of it. I am sorry. Now, with this album, I remember hearing Philosophum first and absolutely loving it. And then I listened to the self-titled Burzum, and then I listened to Detsum Ingengvar. I didn't really care for the first one for a long time. And I loved Detsum, but Havis I never listened to for some reason. I think it was because I saw it had like 4 songs that were really long. At the time, I was like 15. So I was kind of just that, a young and dumb phase and ignorant when it comes to music. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to read some reviews for at Metal Archives. And there was one review in particular that said, listen to this album in a dark room and make sure the room is cold and just enjoy the atmosphere. So I immediately ran in my room and turned the air conditioner on because it was in the middle of summer. And turned the lights out, and I waited a couple hours. So I kept browsing forums and whatever back in the day. And I remember seeing that it was starting to get dark out. I'm like, it's on. So I ran to my room, I plugged my Zune in, and I chose this album. And from the opening note of with the keyboards on Detsum Ingengvar, I was absolutely mesmerized by it. The coldness in the room, the darkness, I just closed my eyes and I could imagine myself running through the album cover. It was like absolutely perfect. And as the album continued, I was just blown away, and it got to the final ambient track, Tummet. And when that song came on, the the sky became really dark. The sun wasn't down completely, but the storm clouds came in. And I just laid in my bed and closed my eyes and embraced the atmosphere of that ambient track. And this is the most unbelievable thing that happened. As the final note on that song rang out, I saw a flash of lightning outside. It started to downpour, and then I heard thunder. As the final note rang out, it was at that point where I knew black metal was going to be my main listen. This was it. I was sold, I was hooked. And that one listening experience struck me on a level I cannot possibly begin to explain rationally. It was just something that was such a strong coincidence that almost felt like a sign that, like, this is what I was meant to listen to. And I haven't looked back since, and that one listening experience still blows my mind every time I think about it, of just how the sky darkened as the album went, and as the final note rang out, thunder, lightning, rain, and thunder. And it was a downpour. It was absolutely perfect, and I can only hope I can experience that again. So that is my experience with this Let's Set Tar Os by Burzum. Now, if you got any cool stories, tell them to me in the comments, or tell them in a video response or whatever. That'd be awesome. And yeah, thank you guys so much for helping me hit 16,000 views. Thanks to whoever shared my video about Black Metal Werewolf, so all the people could come in and misinterpret what I said. But whatever, I got a shitload of views on it. I don't care. I gained some subscribers, so whatever. But that's it. Tell me your stories. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And as always, keep it metal.